Hey y'all, it's Evan with More Than Meets These Guys. I wanted to come and give this intro to what I got to experience yesterday. I was able to, back in February of this past year, I was able to work with Pensacon over in Pensacola, Florida, and one of the panels I conducted or moderated was a voice actor panel. Fantastic voice actors, but one of them I try to keep in touch with, and it was a special place for me because of my love for Transformers. And he agreed to have a little half hour interview with me. Uh, People maybe think it's nothing special, but it is to me. And he is a very gracious, very thankful person to have his fans and his fan base. And he was very generous to come on and spend a little time with me. And so it was a great delight that David Kaye, Beast Wars Megatron, got to come on the podcast. It's a little extra I'm going to throw out there this week. And it was just me because it was, it kind of had to happen, reschedule and everything else, but it got done. So it's my great pleasure to bring to you all my interview with voice actor David Kaye. Thanks, everyone. Hey everyone, I'd like to welcome voice actor David Kaye, who Transformers fans will know best as Megatron from Beast Wars and Beast Machines. He also played Megatron during the later Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, as well as Optimus Prime in animated. So welcome to the podcast, David.
Thank you very much. I love the name of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was born of a lot of conversations with my usual co-host during lockdown and everything else.
I bet.
So,
Yeah, it's brilliant.
yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, it was my pleasure to meet you at Pensacon. So, really, that was why I do it, so I can, meet and share time with people who I actually look up to as well. So, thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's the first time I actually got sick in 3 years when I came home from Pennsylvania. Like, yeah, I avoided it, but it still didn't get to see. It was still not that. It was just a bad cold. It was just,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, it was. I avoided it all that time, and yeah, but I was, that's gone. So.
Very good. Well, let me get started here. You already answered this during PensCon, and I just, want to give it for everyone else who, maybe listening who wasn't obviously there. Can you tell me a little bit about your introduction into voice acting, and also to link to that, how the job of for Beast Wars came about?
Oh boy. Well, the voice acting thing, I never knew it was a thing. I was in radio. I got into radio as a kid. I got my first job at like 17 years old, um, on the air in my hometown, a little place called Peterborough, Ontario, in Canada, which is about an hour and 20 minutes northeast of Toronto. I'm currently looking at the ocean here in Ventura County, so it's many years ago, many years ago up there. Um, but that's how I saw. I was working in a sport pro shop selling, racquetball rackets and squash rackets, and that's how I get into the random sport of squash back then as well. When I was a kid, I never gave it up. And the morning man from the local radio station, John Maricine, used to come into the YMCA every day, and I'd be in the pro shop. I think I drank all the soda and I think I ruined their profit margin. I had no idea what I was doing, but he used to come in and talk to me, and he was sort of he was a big man on campus in the small town. He was the radio guy. He had a great morning show, and Mary is seen in the morning, and I was gravitated toward radio. I don't know why. I used to listen as a kid. I used to listen to I used to hear stations, um the big signals coming from what is it, WGN Chicago, WBZ Boston. I used to listen to radio coming across the border. The big station in Detroit, it was actually in Windsor, Canada. And there was other stations I used to get. I always had this fascination with American radio. It just sounded bigger, sounded, later on, I learned that they'd pump it up, little EQ and level devils, and made it sound big. And used to drive me nuts. And my little radio station in my little hometown sounded so teeny and thin.
Hmm.
And I want to be part of that. How come I can't? How come we can't do that? I started getting a lot of heroes. Rick D's among them way back, and Rick and I have since become good friends. And That's how I sort of got into the voiceover through radio. I used to be on the air during high school and doing overnight weekends, and I was horrible, but one person gave me a shot. It always I tell people, that want to get into the business. I can't. There's no magic pill or whatever, but I always say there's just one person has to say yes. That's it, and that sort of started the adventure. And then, of course, fast forward way down the road, radio took me out to Vancouver, British Columbia, up in Canada, straight north of us here. And I was doing every show, and I got into the morning show and started doing characters. And this was back in 89, 90, I think it was, somewhere there. And uh, characters I developed was like Cowboy Dick was one of them, like, howdy, boys and girls. Woo! Used to sing songs, and I used to do little voices, and I would do stunt boy and stuff like that. But hang on, and that was that sort of led, the um, uh, in character work, and I would come up with different characters and sing songs. And It was in Vancouver that there was an agency. I had time doing a morning show. I had all day, so there was this modeling commercial agency, and I've as a lark, I went and took a class, and it was learning lines to do commercials on television. That was kind of fun. And from my first agent, I got that from my first agent. So he said, you should do this. You should think about doing this. And I said, okay. And then again, fast forward, an audition came through for GI Joe, and I had no idea they were doing cartoons in my neck of the woods at that time. And it was Deke Animation, and I was strategically DIC, done in Canada. I didn't realize that, but that's what that's what it stood for. Well, it didn't really stand for that, but that's what. Then I got cast as General Hawk in GI Joe back in 89, 90, and that was the beginning of the end of my radio career, because I thought, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this. How do I do this forever? And that sort of started the voiceover thing. And my love for animation and all things voiceover, commercials. It all sort of grew from radio. And Roger Bumpus, who plays it's fun, and on SpongeBob, what's his, that plays the saxophone. What's the character again? SpongeBob,
Squidward.
Squidward. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Roger, when we were in Florida, him and I came from the same from radio into this business, and we were comparing notes, and it's much the same as how we sort of both got into it. And the Transformers thing happened, I guess, a couple of years after that. I think maybe, I don't know. They were casting for that. I hadn't watched the original G1 series. I didn't really know. I grew up on Bugs Bunny and stuff, and that audition came through as a big bunch of papers, and I didn't really know too much about what I was doing, but I thought, oh, this is cool. So, and I was doing theater at the time. And so I was, doing on camera stuff and working at it, and that, I was horrible on camera, but I really loved being behind the mic. And so this came about, and I remember the audition, you'd see a bunch of your friends, and I kind of went in the booth, and I honestly, I wasn't really prepared, because I wasn't quite sure really what I was going to do. I had a bunch I'll read for all of them. I don't know. And the Megatron one, I remember, sort of just kind of, I don't resonated. I don't know. It's just, this guy here. And I just sort of literally thought, Sean Connery, Anthony Hopkins, and a lizard, kind of like, well, how does that And sort of, yes, excellent. I come up with this thing, yes, Commander Rat Trap, what a pleasant surprise. A bit of a list, like a. So they bought it. They brought me back in a callback, and it was hardly anybody at the callback. It was at a different studio. I walked in, there was nobody there in the waiting room. It's just me. And I go, oh, this is a good sign. There's nobody else here. So they had me come in and read both parts. They had me read Megatron, and they had me read for Primal. I can't remember what the Primal voice was. I really don't know. Nobody does it like Gary, and I just probably did my voice and ended up doing that Optimus voice for TF Animated. Probably that's what it ended up being.
Mm.
They went and they bought the Megatron thing, and here we are 25 plus years later, still talking about it. And that's a that's a gift, man, because some of these things are, some of them come and they go, and still people still line up at conventions, and I'm baffled by it, but I'm sure glad they do. And it just, I guess it resonated, So that's the nutshell story there. Uh, yeah.
Great. Yeah, great story. Actually, I actually kind of attributed your voice work of that as being more like a Bond villain, which, with
Yeah.
Connery. And yeah, so well, yeah, so obviously, as one of my other questions here, was it purposeful choice or personality that emerged? And obviously that was your choice, how you approached the character.
Mhm.
So once again, when you started developing the character, and I know there's the scripts, and there's things you kind of inflect into the character as you work. The question I'm sure you get asked a lot: where did the yes come from?
See, I get asked this a lot, and I think next time I see Sue, I'm gonna
Mhm.
ask her. I was supposed to ask her at the latest convention we're at, but I didn't get a chance to, and I forgot, because you're all like, hey, how are you? We're having fun, and we forget to ask things. Anyway, I think it was a combination of something. I think, as I recall, there was a yes in the script, but I kind of expanded on it, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I I know it was written once, but I think I tried it a couple of times where I said it again during another thing, and I think I added a no onto one of the end of the lines. I believe it was the Commander Retrop, what a pleasant surprise. It shall avail you not. No. Side gun. So it was kind of a response to a yes I'd said earlier. And then they seemed to kind of, the nodding meerkats behind the glass. Oh, yeah, they kind of like that. And let's try that again. And I would add it. And then I believe they started writing it in once in a while. So it became his thing. Yes. It became his, his, what do you call that when you have a tick? Yes, excellent. Yeah. And that, yeah, that's how it was born. I think I sort of expanded on what was written down and added something, and it became a thing. And that was very early on in the season, in obviously the first season.
So when you recorded for Beast Wars, was it more of an ensemble style casting
Mhm.
or recording, or was it a single solo?
Yeah, thank goodness it was ensemble, which I prefer, which has been the last 3 years has been, Um, yeah, when you go in to see it, I mean, I haven't been in a studio now with multiple people in 3 years.
Oh,
I've been on some shows, but it's been either done here, and then you get called in, and you get there, it's like, oh, I'm the only one here, so that was such a great time, because we come in the morning with our coffees. Everybody had a Starbucks, and we, we'd goof around and sit there, and then we'd read through the script, and then we go in. When the studio Pinewood isn't there anymore, it's a big tower, I believe, up in Vancouver. It's in a condo complex or something, but that studio is long gone. But it was such a great studio, and then we go into, like, it was a giant Foley room, more so for making films, and the
mm.
mics were all set up, and it's just so cool. It's old school, and the big Neumann microphones, and we were in a horseshoe shape, we're all like this, and then the glass was there, and yeah, it was fun. It was an ensemble, and it was so much fun.
Any stories or kind of fun things you remember from that
Oh,
time?
sure. That's where the pull my finger thing comes from. I stood across from Gary, and Ian, and in the corner was Richard Newman, and there's Richard, uh, Ian, and Gary, and again, pull my finger. I'm not pulling your finger, and then I think Scotty was over there, Venus, Doug, Alec Willows, and else was on this side, Don Brown near me. And when Jim Burns came in, and he stood beside me, so I was kind of on this side. I think they did it on purpose because as I think about it now, the Predacons were on this side of the room, and all the Maximals were on that side of the room, and I go, oh, that's what they did. Ah, okay, yeah. So, but, there was this, and there used to be this roof that those sound panels used to throw, pencils up, and they would stick up there, and we would be doing that sometimes, and we would be told, "Okay, guys, settle. Okay, settle down." We'd be doing that and throwing things at each other. It was like kindergarten, sort of in a way. But when it came down to business and work, we got down to it. But it was a lot of fun. And then one of the ones when Jim Burns was in Inferno, when Jimmy was in the cast, that was like the second season. He used to, I think Jimmy lost both his legs in a horrible motorcycle accident many, many years ago. And when he had his prosthetics, and he walked with a couple of canes or a cane, and he come walking in, and he'd sit. And first thing he'd do is, "Hey, I got one for you." And he'd tell the dirtiest joke. Like it was just like, "Oh, oh, first thing, Jimmy." No, it was funny, but boy, oh boy, it's something you could never.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed
So,
him.
so this priest and this guy, okay, here we go. It was one of those. But that and poor Venus, she was the only woman in the cast, and she was one of the guys, and she put up with a lot of crap, I think. So, yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, actually, I was had a chance to meet Jim at the BotCon '99.
Oh yeah,
He's a larger than life personality. He's
he sure
fantastic.
is. Hell of a singer too, man.
Really?
Oh my, yeah, Jim. He's got albums. Jim Burns. Yeah, he's a
Oh,
blues guitarist, singer. Oh, Jimmy's a great musician, man. Jimmy's world class. Yeah.
nice. I'll have to check that out soon. Okay, so I see behind you have a Beast Machines poster on the floor.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
So
it's signed
yeah,
by everybody as well.
woohoo.
That's a mainframe. That's an original. Actually
Nice.
forgot I had that there because I was moving things around. I go, I have no place to put it, so I just put it there. But yeah, it's signed by Ian and Scott and everybody, Gary. Yeah, that is quite cool. Wow, Fox Kids, right? Wow.
So I was going to ask you.
Thanks for reminding me because I haven't really look. I go, oh my god, yeah,
I
there it is.
was going to ask you. There's a lot of we, fans of the show when we saw the transition to Beast Machines. It was a darker, more somber. I would say a more mature outlook on the story.
Mhm.
How did you feel like? I feel like to me, Beast Wars and Megatron is very bombastic, very I don't know, almost I say a Bond villain, maybe sometimes a cartoon villain, and then Beast Machines was the triumphant Megatron. He's very somber, very different take on the
Oh yeah,
character.
drunk with power, and
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, different writing. I mean, I loved it because it's kind of dark and brooding. There was a part of me that missed the sort of bit of the comedic. There was not no more yeses and things like that. The show had evolved, and the characters evolved, and it was very cool. I kind of dug it because I like that. I like the dark Batman, um, sort of thing, and the animation started to get a little better. You look at it now, and compared to things that are going on now, you think, wow, it's rudimentary, but it started to kind of really take on a whole other realm. The way the character design was cool, but I loved it. I it was just so much fun just to go in and do this show, and it became a hit. I didn't pay too much attention to. I mean, back then there was no the socials weren't really happening, and we didn't really know how the show was doing, and we didn't really get any feedback unless you were invited to a Transformers convention, and you go, oh, wow, I guess this is a thing. People really like the show, or they didn't like it or whatever. They were, G1 fans, and they like, but whatever. It was, you had an indication. The only way you knew was if you actually went to a convention or talked to people, because we're in our own little bubbles.
Yeah, it was actually really nice to see the I don't know, the community feel like they had a resurgence during Beast Wars, Beast Machines, and so on, and
Mm.
that leads to another role for Optimus Prime during animated. You mentioned that you took kind of that aspect of what you wanted to do for Primal and
Yeah.
turned it into Prime. So I mean, how did you feel about approaching that as the good guy? Let's say.
I went into that audition. I remember when that audition came through, and I was still commuting from Vancouver to Los Angeles, and I remember saying, Sue, because I was able to work down here, and I had proper credentials and all that stuff, and so I said, hey, is there? And I emailed her directly and said, I see they're doing a new Transformers. Is there a way I could read for the show because I'm down? And she's, oh baby, oh honey, of course, oh my god, I'm not. So they sent me the sides, bunch of sides, and I read, of course, did Megatron, and they go, oh, here we go again. Megatron rides again. I remember reading for Lug Nuts, and I didn't even read for Optimus Prime. It didn't even cross my mind. I read for all the villains. So. And then I got a call back, and here we go. I'm going to call back at Cartoon Network, and went in. There's a bunch of people there, and um, Michael Bell was there, and reading, and so I just thought, wow, this is overwhelming. So I just went in, and of course, they had me. We're all laughing, and that's the first time I met Derek Wyatt, and the first time I met Matt Youngberg, and Sue was there, and the producers, and so excuse me, it was in the moments, and I thought, oh, did the Megatron thing, and I remember reading Lug Nuts, and we all had a good laugh, and oh, isn't this fun? This is great, and I was feeling good about it, and then Sue, there's a lot of this sort of silent discussion going on, and Sue says, uh, honey, could you grab the we're still trying to find an Optimus, and we're thinking maybe you might be able to use your voice, and go in the hall and take a look at the sides and come back in and read, and I did. This is kind of interesting, so I went out, and I had, again, really no idea sort of what to do. I think you know, I sh I should have just done nothing, and just did my voice, but they wanted sort of a younger Tom Hanks type of a sort of feel, or some kind of a, thing like that, and I did, and they seemed to like it, and yeah, it was the weirdest thing, because I got the call. I was driving through Chinatown in LA, and I got the call from my agent, and they and I assumed that, hey, so they want to book you for a Transformers. I go, "Oh, okay, all right." And for the role of for Optimus, and I remember turning a corner, and I was on the speakerphone, and I went, for s- for Optimus, or was it Megatron? She goes, no, for Optimus, and then I go, Optimus, really? so yeah, that's how it happened, and it took a few episodes to get it, to sort of find him, because I was, a little younger and trying to do this. I don't know, and I kind of dropped into my voice, transform and roll out. He was with me, and I became a little more closer to who I am, and I was like, okay, then that feels better. So, but it took a minute, to get used to that. But well, what an honor, man.
Yeah, definitely. I personally loved it a lot. So it was one of my favorite shows. And it was nice hearing
Thank you.
a lot of the old voice cast been in different roles in this time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, really, that plays into what I also want to ask you. Are you surprised at the longevity of Transformers? I mean, you said yourself going to the conventions, you had no idea until you got out there into the public and see the fans. Does it ever, still surprise you at this point?
Oh, always does, but you take a look at the toys. I mean, cartoons are a vehicle to sell toys, and toys are cool, and I always love toys. And I mean, the latest, I was at TF Con here in Burbank in March, and a company that's doing the the robotic ones actually transform and dance. And I'm like, wow, that's where the toys are going. That's insane. Like they're little robots.
Mhm.
And then yeah, you think of that and where that's going. And so yeah, the toys are pretty cool. So I'm not surprised because it seems to have a longevity. And of course, the movies are other series and new iterations are always bringing new fans in that maybe weren't exposed to it before, and you're getting fans coming in who've never heard of Beast Wars, and young kids are now a lot of parents with their kids, and the kids are digging the Beast Wars, and I go, wow, really? So it's it. I'm surprised always because how did I get here? But I'm not surprised because the toys
Mhm.
and it's so cool, like the fandom. It's so cool, people dressing up, and yeah, it's awesome, man. I think it's great. I think it's one of those things that will probably be with us for a very very long time. You know.
Yeah. And there's another show that I honestly should have recognized your voice for a long time. One of my favorite shows. I just want to see if you can give us a little stepping away from cartoons for a second. Um, the 14-time Emmy winning Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that started and your experiences there?
Yeah, sure. And now, David Kaye talks about life before Last Week Tonight. Um, Yeah, it was a weird one. I was sitting at home and my manager calls. I'm LA time. He's New York, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. I go, it's like 1 o'clock. What the hell? Hey, Jay. Hey, how's it going? Anyway, I read for the promos for HBO for this new show. And I just said, coming up this fall. And I did this sort of voice, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, premiering on HBO. And I got booked for that. Oh, great, cool. I did a bunch of promos and I was at. And then I'm watching TV, and I go, "Hey, Maria, the thing is on, the thing," and then it's a different voice, and I went, "Well, the voice is great, but it's not me." Oh, you're right. Well, yeah, what's the deal? So I texted, I guess you're not doing it, whatever. And then yeah, Jay calls and says, so they went a different way, but they really like you, and they want to know if you're available. Like, can you like work on the weekends? I go, for what? She go, well, they want to know if you're interested in working, on the show. And I go, so like, does this mean like Saturday and maybe the odd Sunday? Oh, really? Oh, wow, weekends are sacred, man. I wasn't really down with that. I said, well, we had discussed it for a little bit. I said, well, I get like, what's the show? And he sort of said, and I said, okay, well, let's just give it a shot and see how it goes. I don't know. So it was because it's early, you would record early in the morning on a Saturday, my time. And I'm thinking, oh man. So we started and it took off. And next thing I know, I'm the closest I'll ever get to an Emmy is I held the Emmy in LA with the crew. They all came out from New York, and we had a great night. I held It's Heavy, and I held the Emmy, and my wife was there. We had a good time, and that's sort of how it happened. I had no idea. Again, you don't know where things are going to go. You don't. You think some things you think, oh, this is going to be a massive hit. It's going to be huge. We're going to be stars, and it doesn't go anywhere. And the stuff you just don't think about all of a sudden it blows up. And yeah, you're very fortunate because it's rare air sometimes, and you just really don't know where some of these things can go.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to thank you for coming on today and doing
Of
this. It was
course.
definitely my pleasure, and you've been very very generous with your time, and it was great meeting you in person and great talk to you again now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for for being a fan, and I mean, without you, man, I told you at the show, without you, there's none of this. So I
Yeah,
very much appreciate it.
definitely, definitely
Yeah.
my pleasure. Thanks so
All right.
much, David.
Cheers, brother. All right. Take care.
And there you have it, everyone. That was David Kaye. Beast Wars Megatron, Beast Machines Megatron, Megatron, the Unicron trilogy, and Transformers Animated Optimus Prime, as well as a lot of other voices. Personal favorite of mine in Exo Squad. He also was as Sesshomaru in Inuyasha. He also is, I believe, is Clank and Ratchet and Clank. A lot of voices, but he's also the voiceover narration guy in Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, which I was glad to ask a little bit about that. So, like I said, just a little extra episode this week, guys and girls, and everyone in between, bots. And I want to make sure that if you like the show, give us a good rating. If you like the YouTube video, give us a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Your friends might like it. Your friends might not like it. But that's the only way this little thing I'm trying to do with Ed is going to get going. Join the Discord. People there talk all the time, and it's a small community that's nice. And I'm so thankful that you took time out of your day to listen to me very nervously ask David Kaye some questions, and took your time out to visit us for a little while. So, from all of us here at More Than Meets These Guys, thank you so much. And since Ed isn't here, roll it. More Than Meets These Guys podcast is performed by Evan Johns and Ed Strickland. Research is done by Evan Johns, Ed Strickland, and with special research help from Boo of the AxalonUnderground.net. Graphics and images in the video portion are created for the podcast exclusively by C. Hooper. Special thanks to everyone who makes this podcast more enjoyable every week.